In a move sending shockwaves through legal circles and immigrant communities, a leaked memo revealed a Trump-era directive granting ICE agents the power to enter homes without a warrant. This power grab, justified by invoking the antiquated Alien Enemies Act of 1798, has raised serious concerns about the erosion of fundamental constitutional rights. Critics argue this move sets a dangerous precedent, potentially impacting all Americans, not just immigrants. The directive, shrouded in secrecy until now, has become a lightning rod for controversy, prompting legal challenges and public outcry. The Alien Enemies Act, a relic of a bygone era, has been dusted off and thrust into the spotlight. Passed in 1798 amidst fears of war with France, the act grants the president sweeping powers to detain and deport non-citizens deemed enemy aliens during times of declared war. However, its use in the 21st century without a formal declaration of war has raised eyebrows. Critics argue that the act is being wielded as a blunt instrument, circumventing due process and targeting individuals based on their immigration status rather than legitimate national security concerns. The Trump administration's directive has particularly impacted Venezuelan immigrants, who have already endured significant hardships in their home country. Many of these individuals fled Venezuela seeking asylum from political persecution, hoping to find safety and a new beginning in the United States. However, upon arrival, they have faced new challenges. Accused of being members of the notorious Tren de Aragua gang, hundreds of Venezuelan immigrants have been detained and deported under the Alien Enemies Act, a law that has been criticized for its broad and often indiscriminate application. Critics argue that there is a severe lack of due process in these cases. Many detainees have been denied hearings or legal representation, leaving them with little to no chance to defend themselves. This has led to heartbreaking scenes of families being torn apart. Individuals are often deported without any opportunity to challenge their designation as enemy aliens, resulting in long-lasting trauma for those left behind. The situation has sparked outrage among human rights groups and activists. They argue that these vulnerable populations are being unfairly scapegoated and denied their fundamental rights. Protests have erupted across the country, calling for a more humane and just immigration policy. Community support groups and volunteers have stepped in to provide assistance, offering legal aid and emotional support to those affected. Despite these efforts, the road to justice remains long and arduous for many. Yet, amidst the turmoil, there are glimmers of hope. Stories of families reuniting and communities coming together to support one another serve as a reminder of the resilience and strength of the human spirit. Section 4. Legal battle lines drawn. The Fourth Amendment under fire. The legality of the Trump administration's directive is being fiercely contested in courts across the nation. Legal challenges, spearheaded by organizations like the ACLU, argue that the directive violates the Fourth Amendment, which protects against unreasonable searches and seizures. The Fourth Amendment requires law enforcement to obtain a warrant, supported by probable cause, before entering a person's home. By granting ICE agents warrantless entry powers, critics argue that the administration is trampling on this fundamental right, jeopardizing the privacy and security of all Americans. Section 5. A chorus of dissent. Legal scholars and human rights champions speak out. The Trump administration's directive has drawn sharp condemnation from a broad coalition of legal scholars, human rights organizations, and civil liberties advocates. These groups have come together in an unprecedented show of unity, voicing their concerns through various platforms, including press conferences, rallies, and public forums. They argue that the directive sets a dangerous precedent, normalizing warrantless home intrusions and eroding the very foundations of due process. Legal experts emphasize that such actions undermine the constitutional protections that have long been the bedrock of American democracy. They stress that the erosion of these rights could lead to a slippery slope where more freedoms are compromised. They warn that such overreach of executive power, if left unchecked, could have far-reaching consequences for all Americans, regardless of immigration status. The implications of this directive extend beyond the immediate targets, potentially affecting anyone who values privacy and the rule of law. The legal community is particularly vocal, highlighting historical instances where unchecked power led to significant societal harm. The chorus of dissent, reflects a growing concern that fundamental freedoms are being sacrificed in the name of expediency and political agendas. Human rights champions argue that the directive is a step backward in the fight for justice and equality. They call for a renewed commitment to protecting civil liberties and ensuring that government actions are held accountable. This collective outcry underscores the importance of vigilance in safeguarding the rights that define the nation. Section 6. The administration's defense national security trumps privacy. The Trump administration has staunchly defended its directive, arguing that it is a necessary tool to combat gang violence and safeguard national security. They maintain that the Alien Enemies Act gives the president broad authority to address threats posed by non-citizens, and that the directive falls well within the scope of this authority. Furthermore, they argue that ICE agents are highly trained professionals who use their discretion responsibly, and that warrantless home entries are only conducted in exceptional circumstances when there is credible evidence of criminal activity. Section 7. A dangerous precedent, eroding liberties in the name of enforcement. The Trump administration's directive to ICE, granting them warrantless home entry powers, has ignited a firestorm of controversy, raising profound questions about the balance between national security and civil liberties. This unprecedented move has sparked intense debate across the nation, with many questioning the legality and morality of such actions. The directive, which allows ICE agents to enter homes without a warrant, is seen by some as a necessary step to ensure the safety and security of the country. However, others view it as a blatant violation of constitutional rights, setting a dangerous precedent for future government overreach. While the administration maintains that such measures are necessary to protect the nation from dangerous criminals, they argue that these powers are essential tools in the fight against illegal immigration and crime. The government insists that without these measures, the ability to apprehend and deport individuals who pose a threat to public safety would be severely hampered. Critics, however, argue that they represent a dangerous erosion of fundamental rights. Civil liberties organizations and activists have been vocal in their opposition, stating that this directive undermines the very foundation of American democracy. They contend that allowing warrantless home entries opens the door to potential abuses of power and infringements on personal freedoms. As legal challenges wind their way through the courts, the debate intensifies. Numerous lawsuits have been filed challenging the constitutionality of the directive. Legal experts are divided, with some predicting that the courts will strike down the policy, while others believe it may be upheld under certain conditions. The nation grapples with the implications of this policy. Families across the country are living in fear, uncertain of what the future holds. Community leaders are organizing meetings to discuss the impact of the directive and to provide support to those affected. The media is filled with stories of individuals and families torn apart by ICE raids, adding to the growing sense of unease. At stake is not just the fate of immigrants targeted under this directive, but the very principles of due process and the rule of law that underpin American democracy. The outcome of this debate will have far-reaching consequences, not only for the immigrant community, but for all Americans who value their constitutional rights. The very principles of due process and the rule of law that underpin American democracy are being tested. As the nation watches and waits, the question remains, will the courts uphold the directive, or will they protect the constitutional rights that have long been the cornerstone of American society? The answer will shape the future of civil liberties in the United States for years to come.